Wars throughout history have been waged for diverse motives, often blurring the distinction between defensive necessity and aggressive ambition. In contrast, Islam established clear principles to govern warfare, emphasizing defensive jihad and prohibiting aggression. This presentation explores these principles through the teachings of Prophet Muhammad, focusing on crucial aspects such as the protection of civilians, the sanctity of enemy emissaries, the prohibition of mass-killing weapons, and the humane treatment of war captives. Originating over 14 centuries ago, these principles form the foundational basis for contemporary discussions on international humanitarian law, reflecting Islam's enduring commitment to justice and human rights during conflict. Prohibition of killing civilians. The Prophet expressly prohibited the killing of women, children, the elderly, monks, and civilians. Islamic jurisprudence similarly forbids the killing of the blind, deeming it as illicit as killing the elderly. Prohibition of mutilation. Most legal verdicts by jurists conclude that mutilation, whether inflicted in war or elsewhere, before death or after, is illegal, regardless of whether Muslims have been mutilated by the enemy. Prohibition of killing enemy emissaries. In a hadith tradition from Imam Sadiq, it is related that the Prophet said, "The emissaries who are enemies are not killed. Therefore Muslims forbid the killing of emissaries of their enemies." In the realm of Islamic principles of warfare, the prohibition of mass-killing weapons is addressed from three distinct perspectives. First, the absolute prohibition in inhabited areas. It is strictly forbidden to use poisonous weapons in areas where civilians reside, as this results in civilian casualties, which is unequivocally illegal. This prohibition is absolute and unconditional, even if such use would potentially result in victory. Moving on to the second perspective, the conditional use in battlefields. Here, the use of poisonous weapons against enemy combatants on the battlefield is assumed to be permissible, especially if the enemy employs such weapons. However, this is only allowed if it does not lead to civilian casualties. Compliance with international treaties that prohibit mass-killing weapons is also required. Lastly, we have the broader prohibition on mass-killing weapons. Extending the reasoning behind the prohibition of poisons to modern mass-killing weapons, such as nuclear and biological weapons, their use is deemed absolutely illegal due to their potential for massive civilian casualties and environmental destruction. This applies to both cities and battlefields, reinforcing the commitment to safeguard human life and integrity in all circumstances. Prohibition of betrayal. The Prophet instructed his delegations never to commit betrayal. The word gadiyar means betrayal, and according to some Islamic jurists, it involves giving the enemy a respite and then killing them unexpectedly. All jurists agree that gadar is forbidden based on this tradition. Distinction between betrayal and deception. Betrayal is distinct from deception, which involves misleading actions or spreading false information to confuse the enemy about one's intentions. All jurists permit deception in war, citing the prophetic saying, "War is deception." Prohibition of torturing or killing war captives. According to a famous account, it is not permissible to kill captives taken after battle. According to the Quran, 47:4, these captives are released either with indebtedness or through getting ransom. It is also obligatory to feed captives even if they are to be executed due to their betrayal. The Prophet's guidelines on human rights during war, established 14 centuries ago, lay the foundation for what we now know as International Humanitarian Law. His teachings emphasize the critical importance of distinguishing between military forces and civilians, ensuring civilians are not targeted or massacred. They advocate against torture and mutilation of the enemy, uphold the security of enemy emissaries, and call for the restrained use of weapons. These principles also include the prohibition of mass-killing weapons, a commitment to honoring promises, and the humane treatment of war captives. These timeless principles inspire a more just and humane approach to conflict even today.